we have to ask her.
Well, she was talking to those.
All right, we're back in open session. Now we're to public hearing number 5. This is a public hearing and possible motion on rezoning case 18CZ10 for about 3 acres on North Salem Street. And presenting is Miss Liz Lofton again.
Okay, this rezoning is at 1490 and 1506 North Salem Street. The site is located near the southeast intersection of US 64 in North Salem. The site includes 2 single-family homes. The properties are currently zoned residential agriculture, and the applicant is proposing to rezone the planned commercial to planned commercial conditional zoning. The applicant conducted a neighborhood meeting on February 26th, and a copy of the neighborhood meeting report is included in the staff report. A full list of the proposed zoning conditions are on page 2 of the staff report. Some of the proposed uses include office, business or professional, medical or dental office, restaurant general, financial institution, or daycare. The applicant has restricted all vehicle type uses. So only the uses that are listed are permitted. And after the staff reports were posted, the applicant and staff worked out an additional zoning condition. A copy should be at each of your seats, and I will read that condition. Direct access onto North Salem Street shall be limited to two access points identified as site driveway 2, and the cigar shop or lounge is right here just for reference, and site drive 3 in a traffic impact analysis entitled Traffic Impact Analysis for Salem Street Assemblage, dated March 2017 as prepared by Kimberly Horn and Associates. The 2030 land use map classifies the subject properties as mixed-use, high-density residential, office employment, and commercial services. The proposed rezoning to planned commercial conditional zoning is consistent with that land use classification. Planning staff can recommend approval of this rezoning because the proposed planned commercial conditional zoning district is consistent with the land use classification. The proposed rezoning is reasonable and in the public interest because it will allow for additional non-residential uses within the area and increase the tax base. At last night's planning board meeting, the planning board unanimously recommended approval of this rezoning. There is also one more additional zoning condition that staff worked out the wording on, and the applicant will be reading that as well.
All right.
Okay.
Let me see if there's any questions for you. Any questions for Ms. Lawson?
Yeah, is the 25% parking in front a UDO thing, or is that lower than the UDO?
That is not a UDO requirement. That is another zoning condition that staff and the applicant worked out to ensure that all of the parking wasn't in front of the building along North Salem Street.
So that still sounds too high to me. How'd you guys come up with that number? Is there a safety issue with having enough parking in front versus that, or is that just a...
That was a concern that we raised with the applicant, and they proposed 25% with 2 bay. It would basically be 2 bays of parking is what they agreed to.
Okay. Oh, that thing we saw on the entrances had the rough drawing of where the parking may be?
So the site access would have to be at Site Drive 2 or Site Drive 3, and then they also have a condition to limit the parking along North Salem Street.
And would something like 10% be unsafe?
So, Mr. Gant, the current UDO standard is no more than 50% is allowed to the in the front. No more than 50% to the front of the building. So this is a reduction by half of what the UDO will currently allow. It's not a safety issue. It's an aesthetic issue.
Okay.
Could existing vegetation, there's some big, beautiful trees on this property.
Mm-hmm.
Can that be a part of this, that those are left intact in some sort of RCA around these trees?
The staff talked to the applicant about that, about saving the trees. We did not work out a zoning condition for that, but we did make them aware of our concerns about the existing trees on site.
I'm just thinking, y'all ever been down Kildare Farm Road at the corner of Kildare and Cary Parkway, and those commercial pods on the corner, they save those big, awesome, whatever kind of trees they are. Just kind of thinking the same thing here. Some awesome trees on the
I would
property.
love to make that a condition.
Okay.
All right, any other questions for Liz?
Planned commercial conditional use, can they also have housing on the second and third floors of this sort of thing, or is that out of the question?
So they don't have any residential listed on their uses at this time.
But they could if they wanted to.
Oh,
Obviously, if they're not gonna list it right now, they're not gonna do it.
Mr. Jensen, we're checking right now to verify. We don't believe PC allows residential, but we're double checking that.
Yeah, I don't think it does either.
The only residential use allowed in PC is a nursing or convalescent facility.
A nursing or
Convalescent.
it's
But
me.
even still, that's a commercial type.
It's in the UDO, it's classified as residential, that's the only one.
I was just curious if there was possibility for that sort of thing.
You said that they restricted types of car use. Did they remove those completely or just restrict them?
Yeah, it's gone.
It's gone.
There's no uses for any.
I looked twice.
Yeah, me too.
Are the dry cleaning, use, there's such a thing, I guess, as polluting versus not polluting, as well as dry cleaning there versus somewhere else. Is there?
So there's two different use categories in the UDO.
Yeah.
And this would only be the pickup type dry cleaning facility, similar to the dry cleaners up on 64. They ship everything off site and then you come and pick it up.
Okay, so that this category is only, okay.
Standard.
We
Okay.
did that with the one with Publix.
Yeah. Okay.
I guess the industrial area that's to the east of this thing, it would be nice to somehow tie it in, but that's another story for another day. All right.
All right, thank you, Liz. At this time, I'll ask if there's an applicant who wishes to speak. Come on up. Mr. Daniel, good to see you
He
again.
bravely comes up.
Mr. Mayor. He looks no worse for the wear.
We haven't done a good job tonight.
This will be fairly brief. I think you're all very familiar with the property. And as outlined in the rezoning petition, we address allowable uses, the configuration and location of the parking on the site relative to Salem Street. And that 25% that we were talking about it's just to keep a sea of parking from existing there between the building, because quite frankly, what we want to do is we want to pull in from the walk. We want to have open space, and as you'll see, we're trying to encourage open and covered dining areas. That's our want to have, but that's not necessarily what we know we can get. So we've built some other uses in. But we've got architectural elements, materials, and features of the buildings to be placed on the site that I think you've probably read. And restrictions on the vehicular access points on the site. Only those two. We won't have any individual driveways coming in. There'll be, in practice, when you look at it, the way it's got to happen, that drive that goes around behind it is not there yet, and it won't be there until there's a site plan submitted, but that's the logical way for this to be served. And the condition saying that these two drives are only access points is a pretty safe way to ensure that that's the way it happens. I want to do one thing. The way the zoning conditions are worded, they have to be worded so as to state what is allowed. But sometimes people are more concerned with what is not allowed, just as a couple of questions asked here. I'd like to take just a moment, if I could, in fact, I was asked to specifically read the uses that would normally be allowed in PC that we've specifically eliminated, thereby leaving the permitted use that you've already seen. And these are ones that are not allowed. nursing and convalescent facility, transportation facility, communication tower, utility minor, arena, auditorium, stadium, youth or day camps, building supplies, retail, convenience store with gas sales, entertainment outdoor, gas and fuel retail, kennels, laundromat, theater, retail sales, bulky goods, automobile parts, automotive service station, car wash and automobile detailing, repair and maintenance, general, vehicle inspection center, vehicle sales and rental, and microbrewery. Those are uses that are specifically eliminated. We feel that the property of this rezoning, we feel that the property of this petition has tremendous potential for the creation of very special places. I think this is a great location, and it's just going to get better and better over time. We think it will have tremendous appeal for what could be just really special places. The trees were mentioned. Anyone that's familiar with that site has got to appreciate the trees. We do appreciate those trees. I have walked under those trees. Some of them are live oaks, and they are not located on the site where we can make a commitment without really decimating the potential of the site. The reason being, we don't know what the uses are going to be. We don't know the sizes. We don't know the configurations. And I don't know how to say this other than, because you can't put an intention in a zoning condition. But we can't put a zoning condition on the trees without being a tremendous detriment to the marketing of the site, because we're not clairvoyant as far as what's going to happen in the future. But there will definitely be a commitment to, or there will be encouraging whoever develops these sites, because we'll probably be selling these sites if we can attract the type use that we want, then they would be developed by 2 or 3 entities, hopefully with heavier emphasis on restaurants. And if we have our way, we will have those spaces that I was talking about the outdoor spaces. Those trees could enter into that very prominently. But there's several trees there, and I just don't have a way of committing to saving them at this time as much as I would like to, and as much as I hope that some of them, not all of them, but some of them, will be saved when site plans are submitted. There was one additional condition that, again, I'm forgetting who brought it up, but it had something to do with solar. And just to read that into the record here, each building to be constructed on the property shall include solar PV panels occupying a minimum of 10% of the total rooftop area of the building.
Thanks for doing that for me.
I have to wait.
That was good.
Well, you're on Mr. Daniel's dime, so let's let him finish.
Actually, I'm through more than willing to respond.
All right.
Okay, then look, don't go anywhere. Don't go
I have a
anywhere.
use question, then that's all right from the first
Go ahead.
one.
Well, before we question, he's just presented, but we haven't done public hearing. So,
Okay.
if you don't mind, let's do public hearing.
Yeah.
And then, we'll see if there's questions still to be asked.
Okay.
And this will be easy, because I opened the public hearing, and other than Mr. Daniel, no one else signed up. So I'll close the public hearing and refer the matter back to council. Councilman Gant, you have the floor.
Right. So I'm a beer fan, and I read through the neighborhood meeting, and they talked about not wanting a brewery, and I was hoping you clarify, did they mean like a microbrewery that is a bit excluded, or were they thinking just this giant thing? Because there's a difference.
I know.
There's good beer and bad
I
beer.
really hated to strike that microbrewery, but we did feel that was a commitment to the neighbors there.
A
Sorry, can you-
microbrewery is a great place.
I had a hard
agree.
time. Can you repeat that? I didn't understand.
We struck microbrewery because
struck microbrewery. Okay.
we eliminated that because we were requested to eliminate breweries and
You're-
pubs.
And the person who requested that knew that it wasn't gonna be, there's a difference between a large-scale thing and a small-scale thing, right? Just making sure.
I don't think it mattered.
Okay.
Well, I think in the past, council has added in things that weren't there, just to let you guys know. I'm not suggesting anything, but I think in the past, council has added things
Okay.
in, such as possibly microbrews.
We've taken them off.
I saw that and I'm like,
We had to
what?
take it off
So,
of one,
okay.
another one though.
Okay.
So for those who really like beer, they might just go ahead and do it.
I like to see him honor his commitment. If he wants to
He
go
can
back to
honor
the
it. We don't have
person
to.
and they want to change their mind, you know. So, can I go next?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Mr. Jensen, an inaugural member with me of the environmental committee that I chair, is getting a lot of stuff tonight. From you getting some solar and this and that, and Mr. Moyer's pretending it's him. That's all fun and games. But that's funny. But what's not funny is so I'm still on the environmental committee, and I want something related to those trees. I'm going to tell you right now. I think that those trees need to be preserved as much as possible, and then you get the right development to come in there, the right product. That's an amenity. Like I think of an amenity for place to people to drawn to. And I'm having a real problem if we do solar and we don't preserve these trees. And that's just I need to get something too. So
You might have to take the trees out to get the solar. Block the sunlight.
What
I'm
about,
just telling you, I'm not going to sit here and
What
keep
about-
getting solar and I get jumped
Find
on.
5 trees, say minimum of 5 trees of certain diameters or
I could-
or a buffer from the edge of the property?
I'm not changing my mind. I said what I said because we getting solar, and I'm sticking hard
I'm
with the
saying
trees.
to
I'm not
clarify the trees.
budging.
Yeah, but
The large trees that are on that property that a lot of us really love looking at. And Mr. Jensen doesn't even have to ask anymore. So now I'm having to ask for trees, and I chair the environmental committee, and he's on, and he was
I'm not on it.
but he was on it and knew much more about environmental than I did. That's why I wanted to chair it, to learn more. So I've learned more. This is my 5th year, and Mr. Brett Gant is on there with me, and I'm telling you, you can't continue to give him solar and not give me trees.
We give up, we take the solar back.
No, that's equity, right?
Before we go there, is there, I want to, because I don't know what, from a rezoning perspective, is there, and maybe Diane, is there a mechanism by which during rezoning we can have a condition related to specific kinds of trees or types of trees?
Yes, you can have a condition for the caliper of the tree, or just that they're specimen trees, which are hardwoods 18 inches and over. We've had zoning conditions like that in the past.
Okay, so there's a mechanism if you want to ask for something specific.
I just
Like a
said I'm
specimen.
not.
Well, I mean, I'm trying to-
arborist, I don't know.
Well, so
So I'm going to ask
she
Ms.
asked she said one possibility is specimen trees, which I think is a
It's
typical.
It's a definition in the UDO.
Yeah.
It's a hardwood 18-inch caliper and larger.
All right, what she said.
I think that's a typical kind of request. I think that's what you're looking for.
Yes.
Well, I think, but you can't define a specific tree. I could see where you could request saving, I'm
Well,
gonna look at that, 5 of the trees, but to be of certain caliber, and that's it, because they're gonna have to take some of these trees down.
But I think what Diane just said is specimen trees.
Yeah.
And that's that's a formal word.
Right.
And you can ask,
For preserving.
as a condition, I'm not guiding you to do this or not, but I'm trying to help you do, I'm trying to help the chair of the environment committee ask for what she's trying to ask for,
Yeah. I got
which
it.
would be preserving specimen trees.
I got it.
I think it's pretty much that simple.
All right.
Well, there's about 8 big trees or 9 big trees,
Well,
you
that's
could say.
all the more the better.
Well, more the better, but you gotta
Well, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. I'm supporting you on solar, but I'm just
I'm
saying.
supporting you too.
All right, well, let me, are you asking for 100% of those saved?
I
We
wanted
just
every
wanted to-
effort to
we just-
preserve.
We
Okay.
just wanted to point out that all of the trees that appear to meet that standard are on out parcel number 3 on your screen. It appears that
The lower one?
there wouldn't be much left to
it
develop
this
on that property.
Yeah.
Okay, so the specimen trees would be on the south property.
No. Number 3, it's the one in the middle.
Oh, I'm sorry, the middle property. Okay,
Page 6.
okay.
I'm lost now.
So let me ask Mr. Daniel, so you've heard the conversation, would you be willing to offer a condition for the rezoning to preserve specimen trees as the UDO defines them?
But you can't,
Well, hang on.
I've looked at the locations of those trees, and I've stood under those trees, I've admired those trees, and done some sketching on those trees, or you know, as to how that could develop, and I cannot feel, I just can't commit with a condition to save the trees without really decimating that property. What I would dearly love to do, because I will tell you, my commitment to those trees is stronger than it is to his solar panels.
But your commitment to him is good.
Don't make it personal.
but she's the chair.
But if I could wrap that up, because you basically said, no, you're not offering that as a condition. Much as you'd love to, you can't, because I understand, you fear it impacts the marketability of the
And
park.
discussions might not mean anything, but
I'm
if...
sorry?
And discussions that don't become conditions might not mean anything, but if it
Yeah.
would help, we would be glad to read into the minutes the commitment to encourage anyone that was sold to make every effort to save trees, but we just don't have a way of dictating it.
Okay, so there's no condition.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm not trying to be dispassionate, but I just wanted to be clear.
Is the parking, the 25%, would flexibility in that enable more trees to be saved of these species ones? Specimen ones? Okay.
How about specifying a number of these trees?
Yeah,
How many?
a
I
certain
mean,
minimum number.
Diane, and Amanda, do you have approximate count of specimen trees from?
We can't tell because we don't have the
Okay.
survey, I don't believe.
All right. I don't hear that working out, but that's good. I mean, I could ask you, do you want to offer a condition of any kind to preserve specimen trees with at least some number with no location specified?
Well, can I explore one option there?
Sure.
Would it be,
It's your condition.
would it be possible to, or would it be an acceptable condition to commit that those trees remain there until a site plan is approved? Therefore, that when the site plan is submitted, the site plan would have to show existing trees, and so there would be at least then you would know how that tree is being impacted and what options, and you could look at the site plan, and then at that point, at site plan, you could suggest, well, why can't you do this and why can't you do that, and then you could end up saving this tree, or you could end up saving these 3 trees instead of the one you're doing. That condition would preserve the trees until a set point, but I'm seeing shaking of heads, so I don't know.
We were answering a question.
Oh, okay.
I didn't hear what you were saying.
But
I have that effect.
No, that's but I think the challenge with that, and it's certainly reasonable if you're offering that as your condition, then we can certainly take that. I can't say what that does to anybody's outlook on this, but if you want to offer that as a condition to where you'll preserve all the specimen trees until a site plan is approved, that at least provides a modicum of comfort related to the large trees, and it potentially, arguably, gives the council the ability to consider a site plan that either preserves the trees improper, but it doesn't give us leverage to do so.
It'll be important to point out, Mr. Mayor, that the site plan will not come back to council. It's administrative.
Oh, would it be? All right. Thank you for pointing that out. Okay, so we would have no real mechanism for that to be meaningful. But you certainly can make that a condition if you want.
I think we'd ought not to make the condition and with the intention of making Ms. Dozier happy when we come back with a site plan.
All right, all right. So, I think we understand, no condition, but we understand your intent. Any other questions for Mr. Daniel?
Yes.
Okay.
Not tree related. The microbrewery, scratching that as a potential use, I would like to add it back in. Can you shed some light on the conversation or the reason as you guys struck that as a use?
Why? Microbreweries are high-valued things.
Well, look, let's ask Mr. Daniel. Are you hesitating because you don't want to break a
We don't want to go back
confidence?
on a commitment from the neighbors. We would love to have a microbrewery there. It would fit very much in with what we're talking about. But there were at least 2 households at that meeting that requested that we not have, I think they said, pubs or
Could you point out on your map where those 2 households are?
the only people that attended that were somewhere right along in here and right here in this quadrant.
Okay.
I would like to know why.
I think there was
Up to
a
Mr.
concern.
Yeah.
I think there was a concern about people imbibing and driving.
Okay.
But you can have a bar.
Like I say, I wanted the microbrewery. I didn't want to go to the bar. No, the restaurant that serves. We just were trying to follow through with a commitment. That's the only reason.
What I'm saying is, a bar is where people really get drunk. A pub they tend to not do so much. I think from the microbreweries I've gone to, and they're not many, unfortunately. I know others here are luckier, but they're more family oriented practically. I've only gone to 2 of them, but I found them to be.
I'm in an awkward situation here,
I know you are.
because I would love to have that, but
That's all right. He's already addressed it. I don't want to press you. Yeah, I don't want us to press you any further on that.
I would like to look at removing some uses.
Okay. What uses would you like to propose?
I'd like to propose, just looking at that area and what I'd like to see coming into downtown.
Mm-hmm.
I would not like to see a dry cleaner there.
Mm-hmm.
I would not like to see a pharmacy there. And I would not like to see a real estate office there. These other uses, I think, they would represent pretty well, but those,
I'll take those out and add a microbrewery.
I'd love to.
Let's do that. I'll take those out and we'll add a microbrewery in there.
Mhm.
I'm fine with that.
I'm good with that.
Well, I'll entertain a motion. Oh,
With regards to the additional conditions or removal of conditions with the conditional zoning, the applicant has to be in agreement with those
Yeah.
all right.
changes.
All right. So, would you like to?
Yeah, so, Mr. Daniels, you have honored your commitment to the neighbors. I would like to make a motion as the council that we add a microbrewery back in. You honored your commitment to the people that asked you to honor your commitment, but I think that fits very well in that area as an option, along with the removal of the 3 items that Ms. Killingsworth suggested.
We can
So if I
add
could-
we can add in, we
Right.
cannot subtract.
So if I could facilitate this, so the request would be, would you be willing to have dry cleaner, pharmacy, and real estate office removed as options, as uses, but have microbrewery added back? I think the council would like to add that in, with all respect paid to those who would prefer it not to be there. Microbreweries are not bars, and there are demonstrable differences among how they are, and
They add to the community.
they are part of, they actually create a collection, a place for people to gather for social occasions. But I don't mean to be an apologist for it, but I want to be I wanted to let you know that what I'm hearing from the council is that they would prefer that be an included option.
I actually disagree with that.
Uh,
But
you-
I'm in a
you're-
minority.
You're welcome to, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Was it a
I've heard at least 3 people speak.
microbrewery be included?
Yeah, and we pulled microbrewery from where the Publix area, Mr. Ioni's, project, even though a lot of us educated ourselves on what it was and didn't think it was something that needed to be pulled, but we did it because there were so many people, a few people that were just like adamant about it. And so I wouldn't want to, he honored a word to somebody even if they misunderstood what a brewery. I don't drink, and so I had to educate. I called the police chief. I read up on it, and I noticed that it's about people practicing a craft, and so I understand what it is, and that there's less opportunity for someone to leave drunk there than for a restaurant or someplace. I understand that. But if a person made a decision, they didn't have that information, that I took time to, I did all that, then I don't want to change something that, because it's my constituent who felt they were heard, when often they don't feel they're heard at neighborhood meetings. So for that reason, it's fine that you all, but for that reason, not about microbrewery, I agree with you all about it, but because I want to honor the work that what he gave to someone else and give him opportunity to go back and then be educated about it. So for that, I wouldn't want to do that. That's just me, though.
People here.
Mayor,
I think the people are here.
Yeah, hang on, let me consult with the attorney.
Oh, yeah.
With the addition of a new use to this rezoning application, it is possible that it would need to go back to planning board for consideration and a recommendation because it's changing the character of the rezoning.
And is that more for use being added as it is?
With the use being added as opposed to the uses being removed,
Okay.
yes. With the new use being added.
Well, one possible option for this, which may meet all of our questions, would be that at least, I think the majority of the council would like to see an option for a microbrewery, and whether, the option for the council would be to ask for that to be added as a condition, but which would necessitate going to the next planning board meeting. So one option for council would be to do that, to send it back with that as a possibility if Mr. Daniel is willing to add that as a condition.
But he doesn't want to.
I'd also
And I understand that.
I live a block away from a microbrewery, and it adds, enhances the community. It does not take away or distract from the community whatsoever. So just from personal experience, it provides such a wonderful benefit to the community instead of taking away from it. So.
To try to satisfy this, maybe and it's Mr. Daniel's choice, but to have it go back to the planning board, but in between, if Mr. Daniels can talk to the people, tell the people the council's consideration as you expressed it, and get agreement or disagreement from them. At least we could get one more round to see if everybody can get on the same platform. That would satisfy you. Hopefully that would satisfy the people, and I don't want to make you go through another cycle that we won't charge you. But
you can't be
to me that would, and I know you're probably cringing, that might satisfy everybody. I guess maybe these folks out here are the ones that were against it, but my experience, and I think maybe a little research would shed light that microbreweries are far better places than bars by far, and like you said, people don't go there to get drunk. It's a community thing, and that if they're drinking hard liquor at a restaurant, their chances of it slipping up on them is probably much greater than at a microbrewery. So it's your option. Can we have this go back to the planning board and you talk in between?
Mr. Daniel, here's how I see the options, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I see the options. One is you can say yeah, it sounds like the majority of the council would like to pursue this. Let's go back to the planning board, planning staff will set it up, and we'll go take one more month to get through this. Hopefully it's a very small change, it could be fast-tracked through. Two, as you say, I just want to go forward with this. I'm happy with the 3 removals and the condition of solar, and I'd like a vote from the council. And if you ask for that, we'll provide a vote. And I can't tell you how everybody's going to vote, but those are, I think, the 2 options you have. The council has spoken about wanting to see that as an option. Even if that ends up not being what gets put there, this is a rezoning request, so whatever goes in, it might not be a microbrewery on business try number 1 or business try number 2, but it might be number 3. But if it's not part of the rezoning, then it would be necessarily excluded until it's ever rezoned again.
Can I ask a procedural question?
Sure.
If it goes back to the Planning and Zoning Board, is the scope of the Planning and Zoning Board's review the addition of that, or is the whole thing open?
I would think officially it would be the whole thing, but
The whole thing.
I think officially it would be the whole thing, but I think there's no reason why staff can't say, you've heard this before, you've already discussed this before, you've already approved this before, recommended approval for this, and here's the only change. And I think they can guide them. I mean, Diane, correct me if I'm wrong, but you can pretty much do that, right?
Why can we not give
Well,
them that guidance?
I was gonna say, we're gonna tell them that you said that, we're not
Yeah,
gonna say
fine.
that we said that.
That's fine, okay, sorry.
Give them the guidance
Yeah.
that says we want to...
Council can provide that guidance of what I just said. And if that's the procedural part, yes, the whole thing is technically open for reconsideration, but I think with the guidance from the council that this is the only change and we're just asking them to really focus on that one item, that can be presented to the planning board as word from the council.
It's your call.
I could suggest another alternative as well. If the applicant would like to, and maybe this delays things longer, but the applicant could request a continuance of this matter so they'd have an opportunity to discuss with the property owners and neighbors as to whether that was something that would even be worth considering, and then bring that back to council at the next meeting.
But if it's added in, doesn't that still mean it goes to planning board?
Yes. Yeah, it would
doesn't
still
really-
have to go back to planning board.
Okay.
So, that's what I said, it just kind of prolongs it, but maybe not as long if, when he talks with his clients, they have no interest in adding,
Right.
then there's really no point going back to the planning
Look,
board.
We can do the vote tonight if...
Mr. Mayor, if I could explain myself just one moment. I really prefer a vote tonight, and the reason being, I'm fairly convinced that if there's an education process involved to explain to the neighbors who are opposed to the microbrewery that what we already have allowed in there would be more objectionable in another way, as far as a restaurant that serves mixed drinks and the like, and we definitely do not want to give that up. I think they might be more opposed to that, and then I would be in a quandary as far as meeting our obligations. So I would offer to strike the. I would like to know more about the real estate office, though, why that is objectionable.
Just coming into downtown, I mean, we have real estate offices all over Apex. So just coming into downtown, is that really what we want to see coming into downtown?
Okay.
You're talking about a big RE/MAX office or something like that.
I was thinking about something on the upper level that, okay.
Well,
and I was thinking of a local garden. I was thinking of a small
from the
local
standpoint of a real estate office doesn't really serve the immediate community. It serves people coming from outside,
It could be no more than,
and it's not, you
no
know,
more than 2,000 square feet, real estate office. Then you got your small real estate office, you don't have your RE/MAX, and they'll be okay. You can define the square footage, I
Okay.
don't know. I'm just making a suggestion.
So, did you want to remove those 3 uses? As you're asking the clarification?
Yes, we'll remove those 3 uses.
Okay, so what I've heard, and correct me if I'm wrong, what I've heard is the solar PV on the rooftop condition and removal of dry cleaner, pharmacy, and real estate, and you'd like to proceed with a vote tonight.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, so there's our current status. Any further clarifications or questions?
Mr. Mayor, Liz read an additional condition that was not in the staff report that I think needs to be included.
Can you clarify that?
Has on a sheet with the additional.
Oh,
Right, but I think
Okay.
it needs to be in the motion, it wasn't in
can
the
we,
application.
yeah, let's find that. Is this no, that's Davis Drive.
Site Drive 2 and 3.
18 CZ10. Okay, so it's the one with the green banner on the top, okay. Oh, this is, access limited to 2 access points. Okay, and the parallel private drive is still connected to the school's driveway, right? That was still part of that plan, to the south, yes?
It's not included.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't change that. Right, okay. Because that's another possible way in, way out. Okay, thanks. So including this third condition, so we had, well, not necessarily in that order, but solar PV, the 2 access points for traffic management. Okay, and then the removal of dry cleaner, pharmacy, and real estate from the uses. Is there a motion related to this item? Or discussion leading to a
I'll make a
motion?
motion to approve as, just was stated regarding the item with the...
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve with these conditions as stated. Discussion on that motion to approve?
I would really, like special attention to some of those large trees like you discussed and talked about. I think they're beautiful on that property. If some user comes, I hope that we can, save those, and maybe that's more of a comment to staff as they look at, site plans and things on these properties. Disappointed about the microbrewery. I think it'd be a phenomenal place for one. But I guess nothing says you can't, the potential future users can't come through and try to rezone it again if they want to. So, I definitely would say keep that open as that opportunities present themselves on that property. I think that'd be a great place for it.
They can always sell Budweiser.
No.
Any other discussion on the motion to approve with conditions? All right, if not, I'll call for the vote. All in favor of approving with those conditions, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Okay, that passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Daniel. Wow, that was some good conversation, a lot of notes. I hope you got a few pages worth, or at least the guy who wasn't standing up here got a few pages worth. All right, let's move on. We have public hearing number 6. Sarah Rayfield is going to present the land use map amendments and rezoning application for 18 CZ06. This is the about 7 acres for office and institutional conditional zoning. Ms. Rayfield.
Correct. Good evening. Before I get started, there is a series of papers related to this case in front of you. The first is an updated cover sheet correcting the address from 1115 to 1125 Davis Drive. It was correct in all other notices and everything, so
All right,
it's simply
that's
just
the
correct.
one with the seal on the top left.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, so check one. As for the other items, those will be
That's the state.
some of the proposed conditions. Yes, correct. That one, as well as then the cross-section of Davis Drive. Those are the zoning conditions that were presented to Planning Board last night. As you will hear momentarily, there will be additional zoning conditions that will be presented by the applicant, hopefully in mere minutes. So again, I am presenting the land use map amendment and the rezoning case 18CZ06 for 1113 and 1125 Davis Drive, brought to us by the applicant Milestone Developments for the property owners listed in your packet. The property is 6.98 acres. It is located on the west side of Davis Drive, Salem Church Road, down here to the south, CSX Railroad line running here, Salem Middle School here to the north, to the southwest, and up here to the northwest is the Middleton PUD. These properties contain multiple residential dwellings and several accessory buildings. There are 2 ponds on the rear of the property, for which there is an approved drainage plan. The applicant held a neighborhood meeting on December 6, 2017. The neighborhood meeting packet is attached in your report. So the land use map amendment is seeking to reclassify this property from medium density residential to office employment. The corresponding, bless you.
Thank you.
Sure. So again, showing you the medium density residential land use map designation currently, the proposed office and institutional conditional zoning land use map shown here. The current zoning is rural residential. The proposed zoning is office and institutional conditional zoning that does correspond with the requested land use map amendment for office employment. Make sure I cover one here for y'all. Davis Drive is shown on the Apex Transportation Plan as a 4-lane median divided thoroughfare due to constraint of the abutting railroad right-of-way to the east. A significant amount of right-of-way dedication will be located on the west side of Davis Drive, thereby impacting the subject parcels. The relatively shallow parcels on the west side of Davis Drive, coupled with the perpetual lack of vegetation along the railroad, are not likely to attract residential development. These existing and future conditions create challenges for attracting residential development along this corridor. Therefore, this type of development is consistent with the office and institutional zoning district and are well suited for development in this area. As I indicated to y'all previously, there are some proposed zoning conditions that you have before you. I am going to read through those as they were presented to Planning Board last night. Again, when the applicant comes up to present, I will allow him to present those additional zoning conditions for which staff has reviewed and is amenable to. The allowable uses proposed in these zoning conditions are limited to medical, dental, professional offices, as well as a handful of other uses similar to those, all listed in full in your packet. The roadway transportation zoning conditions are as follows. When I complete this, I will also, I'll pull this up here a little bit to help highlight some of those, as well as then that cross-section that you have will also help provide that visual to aid with the text. The number of roadway access points on Davis Drive shall be limited to 1 and is subject to NCDOT approval. The developer shall dedicate an additional 40 feet of right-of-way along the length of property frontage on Davis Drive. The developer shall cause to be designed and constructed a 10-foot wide multi-use path along the length of the property frontage on Davis Drive. The developer shall dedicate a public multi-use path easement encompassing all portions of the multi-use path that are to be located outside of the dedicated street right-of-way. The road widening required on Davis Drive shall be limited to such excel turning lanes as may be required according to the Town of Apex Unified Development Ordinance or deemed necessary by NCDOT in the course of issuance of a driveway permit. Building dimensions: the maximum building floor area allowed in the development shall be limited to 45,000 square feet. Building height shall be limited to a maximum of 2.5 stories. Parking configuration: no more than 1 double-loaded parking bay shall be located between any building and Davis Drive. As for the non-residential architectural standards that are included in these zoning conditions, they are the ones that we typically find with non-residential uses for such items as massing, facade, and building materials. And just to give you a little bit of a visual in regard to the transportation conditions that were listed in that zoning, essentially what we're looking to do is dedicate the additional 40 feet of right-of-way for Davis Drive as it is on the transportation plan. And what that will allow for is essentially, and this is just showing you a snippet of what the town of Cary has done north of the site. So essentially, this here is the ultimate right-of-way. So when that road is widened to the four-lane median divided highway, this will essentially be that ultimate west boundary. So essentially, if they come looking for another point of access outside of the one, what we're looking to do is actually construct this, so that future right-of-way, as that road would be laid out, can go ahead and be put into place, and in the meantime, would serve as a frontage road. And also, there would be that multi-use path that's shown on the colored sketch that y'all have that shows that 10-foot multi-use path and that continuing within that right-of-way.
Can you say that again? So you're saying that left-hand one is going to be the south directing traffic one, or is that's the multi-use path we're seeing, and the right-of-way is in the grassy part?
It's okay. Yeah, the way that development north of Apex, just over the Cary line, was constructed was the southbound lanes, like you pointed out. So basically what they did was constructed what will now serve as a service road, but in the future will be those southbound lanes.
Okay.
Just to set up that frontage. I mean, I guess that's got a number of advantages in their case. For one, when you've got residential on a road like this, you don't have to worry about people moving in and then being surprised years later when you've got extra lanes coming your way. You've already got the lanes set up for those people that are moving in. The other thing is it already sets up that area for a median. The drawback to that, of course, is it's expensive to do it this way versus just putting in an access with whatever turn lanes, and then it's not something we can require unless we're willing to participate in something like that based on what's proposed. So they'll have an access. They're not building that service road. They're building just a multi-use path offset from those future lanes.
Okay.
And that's not a throwaway pathway then, it's built where it will be permanently?
Well, we'll have them build it back at the ultimate right-of-way, but anytime you widen a road in that manner, your grade points can change. You know, it's very hard to guarantee your sidewalk or path will remain when you widen the road. We'll try to put it where it needs to be horizontally, but we don't know vertically.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Also, I'll go ahead and, well, before I do that, let me go ahead and finish with the staff report. Based on the zoning conditions already presented, as well as those that you'll be hearing from the applicant, planning staff recommends approval of the 2030 land use map amendment and the rezoning for case 18CZ06 with the conditions offered. The proposed rezoning to office and institutional conditional zoning is consistent with the proposed 2030 land use map amendment to office employment. The office and institutional conditional zoning district is an allowable zoning district within the office employment land use classification. The proposed rezoning is reasonable and in the public best interest because it will allow office and institutional uses to develop in an area that is growing and in need of services. Providing small businesses to serve the surrounding community will allow residents to travel less for services, and it will also help increase town of Apex tax base and create employment opportunities. And one other item that did come up for discussion in planning board last night was the ponds on site, and just wanted to let you know that staff reached out to stormwater to discuss those items, and I believe that as the applicant will present, staff is in concurrence with those as far as when those ponds are drained, their current ability to hold water, and also potential wetlands on the site. But I will let the applicant speak to those directly, and also planning board report to town council last night recommended approval with a vote of 5-1 with the conditions as proposed. And again, that was only the conditions that you have printed out before you. And that note.
We're not going to use the presentation, so you
Okay. Just kidding. Thanks. Well, then, I will be happy to answer any questions at this time.
The, planning board, the one that was a no, what was the reason?
I don't have anything listed in the report. I would have to go back and look at the minutes to
Can I give an
see if there was
unofficial
no other
answer?
reason.
Because I was in the room.
Okay.
So if you'll take it for what it's worth, the unofficial response was, there's a pond there, and I don't really like taking away ponds. That was more or less a paraphrase of a quote.
Okay. Is there a particular reason
Well-
why we're draining the pond?
My understanding, and I don't have the background, but my understanding is it was a farm pond that was added by the property owner many decades ago in order to be livestock water gardens, and I don't know whether or not it is in some other way meaningful.
Are they also, they're gonna breach the dam there too, correct?
Yeah, if you would like, I can provide you the response from Mike Deaton, our stormwater manager, if that would...
Great.
Okay, great. So, in regard to questions on the existing pond and what will happen when it is drained, in general, there will be an engineered dam breach and ponded water will no longer be present. It's likely that a perennial stream will reform and feed into the adjacent pond owned by the Smiths. A 100-foot riparian buffer would be required on both sides of the stream in this scenario. Concern regarding pond drainage that may cause flooding to existing ponds in the area was brought forward last night. The response from staff is that there is some detention being provided by the existing ponds, although it is not significant during large rain events. The largest existing pond has an 18-inch pipe, as it is primary spillway, which has been observed by staff to be clogged at times in the past. During large rain events, staff has witnessed the pond overtopping in the middle portions of the dam. This overtopping could possibly lead to a breach and potentially cause extreme flooding conditions downstream. In regard to the public indicating wetlands on the site, staff's response, that may be the case. However, any on-site wetlands will need to be fully delineated at the appropriate time, site plan submittal, and any impacts will need to be authorized by the state and U.S. Army Corps. The town will not approve construction drawings until all applicable local, state, and federal environmental permits are issued. There was also discussion regarding the school's retention ponds previously failing, and how these ponds may play into that. The use of underground detention in O&I conditional zoning designations is fairly common to meet town water quality control standards. The applicant will also provide water quality devices as well. And that was in regard to the developer, or the applicant rather, indicating that they would be looking into underground detention for this site when it develops. There was discussion of looking at a 25-year floodplain management versus 10. Let's see. If a 25-year floodplain management plan was recommended, then water resource staff would recommend the following. At construction drawing submittal, require applicant to study the drainage basin leading to the Smith Pond, and if permission is granted by the property owner, have the applicant evaluate the Smith Pond and outlet control structures to determine pre- and post-development conditions for the 1-year, 10-year, and 100-year storm events. If removing the existing ponds and developing the property worsens downstream conditions, then the applicant must mitigate these impacts on site, though additional or larger stormwater control measures, or make necessary modifications to the off-site Smith property pond. This would take a private agreement between property owners.
Will the site be able to have access to the, I forget, you said it was Middleton neighborhood on that side? Was there any chance of that ever happening?
As far as site access, I don't think that that's anything that we've...
There is a public stub from Middleton to Forget-Me-Not, so in the future, if there is an opportunity to connect that public street, we would seek that. It kind of depends on what the development is in that area.
It would happen north of this.
It would happen just north of the site, that's correct. That strip through there, it's not right away. It's the stub from Middleton stops right here from their public street. This is private, so if there was a redevelopment where that could be dedicated as a public road, or maybe even a private access with a public easement, that could be extended as a connection to Davis Drive.
And does our transportation plan have that connectivity?
I do not believe we show it as a collector. We may show it as like a connector street, or it may just be one of those when it's as connected, we would require it.
But generally, from this area, which is truly off of Holt Road, this connectivity to Davis would provide a convenient connectivity to Davis for people who work north, as opposed to having to drive Holt to Old Jinks, to Davis, down to this corner, and then north again.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we're looking at a number of things with our Advanced Apex plan, so this is another thing we can take into consideration.
Yeah, should be added onto it, that's for sure.
Yeah.
That's what I want to make sure is part of the transportation plan, to see that connectivity happen.
Yeah,
I understand that Forget-Me-Not is private at this time, but I'd hate to see that disappear and lose the opportunity to make that connection.
Yeah, the stub was made to allow that opportunity, and we typically seek that kind of connectivity.
Okay. All right, any other questions for Ms. Rayfield?
I have one. That green spot south of this property, is that our Salem Pond Park? Right there, yeah.
Right.
Is it down a little further?
It would be down,
I
yeah,
think
this is...
that's the touch of the lake that's on Salem Pond Park, isn't it? Right?
That may be it, yeah, this is not, this is just single-family
private property.
residential.
It's a school, looks like.
See those two homes?
School to the left.
Yeah, I can't, yeah,
There's two homes.
yeah.
Yeah, that could be.
Can't zoom down any further.
It looks that way, doesn't it?
On this map, it shows it.
Here's the stuff that's above them, right? So this one is a house.
All right, not hearing any other questions for staff, I'll call the applicant and see if the applicant wishes to speak to this. And, yeah. How did you manage to get everything lined up on the same night?
Efficiency.
All right, I'll officially open the public hearing, Mr. Daniel. I typically give the applicant 9 minutes to present. When he begins, we'll go with 9.
Yes, thank you, I appreciate it. So I can flip over to the other two, right? Just, yeah, thank you. All right, great. I'm putting two exhibits up because at the Planning and Zoning Board, there were 2 items that were discussed more than anything else, and that was the pond and Forget-Me-Not Road. And there were a lot of misconceptions, and so we went back and did a little research and put an exhibit together in case there was anyone who had questions about that. We could be much more definitive about it than we were able to last night. At any rate, I thought the staff report was excellent. I thought it dealt with all the issues and the conditions. I'm not going to duplicate anything that they said. I just feel that the change in the land use plan is much better suited. What's proposed, it is far better for the office than it is for the medium density residential, in my opinion, with the railroad there and with the nature of that roadway. I think it's pretty much a natural fit. And as far as those 2 issues, that's what I really want to concentrate on. The ponds, we've already, first off, those ponds are problems. The dam is very narrow, it's about 8 feet wide, it's covered with trees.
Sorry, hold on. What'd you say? Start over about those ponds, I'm sorry.
The ponds are problems, maintenance problems and safety problems. The dam's very narrow and is covered with trees, and the outlet structure is not nearly large enough. That's why the dam overtops, and it's just a matter of time before the dam's blown away anyhow. If it were going to be kept, that dam would have to be reconstructed totally. The property owner downstream that owns the pond downstream, Mr. Smith, I think, Sid Smith, had expressed very real concerns about those ponds and the hazard that they created relative to his dam and his pond. We've already designed a drainage plan, and submitted it and had it approved. So all permits are in place for the removal of that pond.
You couldn't come back in there and put a retention pond in there, or that's, because it's a perennial stream at that point, I guess.
It's a riparian buffer.
Yeah.
We can't put any
You
BMPs,
put it back.
can't put BMPs in riparian buffers. And-
But I did, just to be clear, but to address your concern, I did hear talk of underground retention
Yeah,
for the
sure.
property site, which is technologically feasible these days.
It's really not quite as good, but it's okay.
Yeah, well, our,
Barris does it, or that Italian restaurant, I know.
Okay.
It's already been.
Carrabba's.
Cabarrus.
Embarrassed.
Can we? And they'll go, please proceed, Mr.
I never
Daniel.
go out to eat. I can't afford it.
well, at the meeting last night, there was some confusion about where our development parcel is relative to Forget-Me-Not. And so the exhibit that you have right here, we outlined in blue the area of development. But if you see the fine red line, that's the area for which the zoning is being requested. And this right here is Forget-Me-Not. And this, and it was mentioned last night, there was a misconception that this pond served as a BMP for the school. It does not. The BMP for the school is right here, as you can see. Once this pond is drained, it will, as Mike had said, it will form as a stream. The buffer will go from the banks of the stream out, and so it will become a riparian buffer. And we can't put our BMP down there. We do envision an underground BMP here, but that was informational. It's not a commitment. And then Forget-Me-Not is in place, but the geometry doesn't exactly lend itself to a future street, but it is there, so that might help. And the only reason I showed the colors is there was discussion last night about access for that road, and access to that road, and who it actually belongs to. And the gentleman right here that owns this purple part right here was taking issue that we didn't have a right to use it, but we definitely do. And I just wanted to have that exhibit in front of us in case we needed it. We have one condition that I want to add, and that condition is a solar condition for Ms. Dozier. And it's for solar and I didn't want you to be left out. It's solar and energy considerations, and it's in two parts. Solar PV systems shall be incorporated into all buildings to be constructed on the property. The size of such PV systems shall not have a capacity of less than 0.75 kilowatts per 1,000 heated square foot of building floor area. Also, LED lighting shall be employed throughout the site and the building. And we offer that condition tonight. The developer has a very brief presentation just to relay the concept of the proposed development, and
Okay.
answer questions.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, and staff. My name is John Brewer with Tower View Office Suites. I'm here to provide a little background as to the vision of this request. Tower View is in the business of providing office space as a service. That is, offices that are fit up, they're fully furnished, and they're ready to move in. It's the perfect solution for local startups and other fast-growing companies. Our customers like this business model because it's efficient. They can lease only what they need. It's also easy. With our tech-ready offices, they can unpack, be onboarded, and ready for business in about an hour. So we also attract medium and larger-sized companies locating their first office in the Raleigh-Durham area or even in the United States. We call these new locations for foreign businesses landing parties. They start with a few people and they multiply. 36% of our current tenant base is from outside the Raleigh area and have relocated here, and in fact, 14% were from out of the country. So growing is what our customers do, and we offered them the ability to grow in place in our buildings, easily adding offices as they add employees. Right now, we're growing. We currently have 47 businesses in our facilities, and we're full, and we need to expand, and that's the purpose behind this zoning request. Our vision for this Apex property is to create a campus-style office development with around 150 offices, all built around the shared office concept. Of course, the facility would have multiple conference rooms, training rooms, media and server rooms, just what our customers expect. But we're also planning community-focused amenities such as lounges, cafes, and even a campus courtyard, so that the business people who are there are encouraged to meet one another and share and interact. So we're real excited about the project. We have a proven record of attracting both local and foreign businesses to our locations with some proprietary marketing tools we've developed. And we expect that this campus will be home to more than 100 businesses when our vision is fully realized. That's a little bit about Towerview Office Suites and Office as a Service. We hope this project is the first of many in Apex, and we thank you for your consideration.
All right, thank you, Mr. Brewer.
How fast can you get this thing going?
Well, we'll get it approved tonight, hopefully.
All right,
One step at a time.
at this point, I'll open the public hearing, and I've got 3 people who signed up. I apologize for the late hour. Brandon Schenk? Did I get that? You waive your sign up? Okay, all right. And Jessica Schenk? Okay, all right. Colin Davidson, just here for good measure? All right. So that covers the public hearing. I got everybody. So I'll close the public hearing and refer the matter back to council, see if there's a question or a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve, if I may, economic development and...
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Discussion?
Yeah, that's right here on planning.
Mayor, can we clarify that that motion includes
Yes.
the additional conditions offered tonight?
Yes,
Yes,
Councilman,
including
with
the-
all the conditions that were submitted by staff, including the late ads
And, yeah,
Yes.
and friendly acceptance.
and the solar.
And the solar. Okay, do you have the
Thank you
wording
so
for the
much.
soling?
Yeah, okay.
You have the wording written?
Close
Yes,
out the
okay.
solar in.
And you're okay
Yes.
with the solar, all right. So we've got the motion now, all clear.
So, I did want to say that I appreciate, your offering another, meeting. I think you, at the meeting you had, I guess in February, you offered a meeting for the neighbors to talk about the designs. I think that was a nice gesture. So, thank you for the solar. If we can get affordable solar, that would just really make my night, but maybe we can work on that next time.
Solar.
All right. Not hearing any further discussion, I'll call for the vote then. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. All right, that passes unanimously. And before we move on, just a quick thought. The location of this for a office use strikes me as just a little odd, and it's a little unusual, but I wish you the very best. I hope it works out, but I will caution you to be observant. We've had places who would open on places like that on a roadside, and they just kind of have a hard time keeping a tenant. So just beware. I hope it works out, though, because we'd love to see office employment around here.
It sounds like it's so integrated, though, this time. It's not like some of the others.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean,
Yeah,
Center Pharmacy, look it up. On Center Street, the building's been empty more than it's been occupied. Before we start, I do want to do a quick time check for everybody. So it's getting close to 11. It's not yet. We got 20 minutes. And I don't want to stop short, but I also want to recognize a few things. One is, we do, as a group, prefer not to run too much past 4 hours because it gets difficult for us to make well-informed decisions when we're hangry or past the town manager's bedtime. Our clerk has got health issues. Our councilman over here has health issues. I say all this to say, I'm gonna apologize to anybody now if we end up cutting the meeting short. I would like to try to get through it, and we'll see if we can power through it, but we do have to consult the attorney tonight, and we cannot forego that. Some other things may have to get jettisoned, and we'll have to reconvene the meeting on another night if we get to that point. I'm not gonna say anything further, because we may have a chance, but let's give it a shot. Public hearing number 8, Amanda Bunce.
Okay, so I'll keep this brief. The First Amendment that is before you is actually proposed by the Planning Committee and deals with the use tattoo parlor and body piercing. So the use is currently allowed as a permitted use in the planned commercial zoning district. The proposal is to switch that to a use that's allowed only with a special use permit and to add the ability for property zoned PC within the small town character overlay district as well with the special use permit to be allowed. The other part of this amendment is to strike the use condition with regard to separation standard requiring 1,000 feet between a tattoo parlor and another tattoo parlor, adult use, pawn shop, or an establishment with an ABC license. The thought behind that was that each situation would be looked at on a case-by-case basis, and so that's amendment number 1. I'd be happy to answer any questions for you on that one.
All right, any questions on these changes?
We had a business owner in town speak to us a month ago, or the last time that this came forward. Were his concerns taken into account with this?
They were. He was in attendance at the planning committee meeting and provided good input.
And he is independent, but is he okay with what we did here?
We came to a common understanding, yes.
So with this change, he would still have to ask for a special use permit?
Yes.
Okay.
We tried to keep control, but allow for flexibility.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions?
Okay. There's just one more. This amendment is to the section relating to sidewalks. And the first part of this amendment is intended to allow flexibility to the planning director to decide when a pedestrian connection may not improve the connectivity in an area where cul-de-sacs are provided. I'll provide you an example of where we do enforce this provision of the UDO and where it is valuable. So there is a sidewalk connection between the end of this cul-de-sac to this main road, where ideally, from a transportation planning point of view, you would have more of a grid system. So there is pedestrian connectivity. Whereas in this example, in this subdivision, providing a sidewalk connection between the ends of these cul-de-sacs really doesn't improve the pedestrian connectivity in the neighborhood. And so it would allow for that to not be provided there. The other part of this UDO amendment is to strike this section that encourages the meandering of sidewalks in order to preserve existing trees. This can create a maintenance issue for our Public Works Department, and also may actually make it difficult for planting of buffers adequately and the maintenance of that vegetation. So staff would not necessarily prevent someone from proposing something, but it simply just removes the encouragement of that provision. That's it.
Are greenways encouraged to meander, or is there a section about greenways that's similar to this that we're keeping?
Greenways are usually just designed based upon the environmental just based on the land where they're going. It's hard to say. Often they do, but it's...
Yeah, they tend to follow topology.
Yes.
So as the creek goes, so goes the greenway. Often.
Typically, yeah.
Often, yeah. At least large sections of it.
Is there a specific situation that brought this up, about the meandering?
We've had a couple of subdivisions in the past where the use of it has not been ideal, and then oftentimes from a bicyclist perspective, it's better to have more of a straighter shot along, or a multi-use path, a straighter shot than something that's meandering more. Meandering is more beneficial maybe for pedestrians than for bicyclists.
Is there a motion?
Motion to approve?
Oh, I'm sorry, thank you. Yeah, I can open public hearing, no one signed up. I almost made it through the whole meeting. Dang it. This is why we don't go past 11, though. Maybe just change it to 10:30. All right, I'll close the public hearing, because no one has signed up. Thank you for the reminder. We had the public hearing. So, we have a
Motion approved.
motion approved
I'll second.
and a second.
I'll tell you, my only concern is that, sometimes you need to manage these to avoid trees, good trees.
But we can.
We still will.
We just don't have to tell people to meander,
All right.
right? Yeah.
All right, I'll vote for it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, that passes unanimously. Public hearing number 9, Diane.
All right, so this annexation is for the Southwalk neighborhood that has been approved previously. They need to annex in order to get public water and sewer and get their construction plan signed. We recommend approval.
All right. I'll open the public hearing. No one signed up, so I'll close the public hearing and refer the matter back to council.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no?
No, consistent with my previous vote.
Okay. All right, that concludes public hearing tonight. There is no old business. We still have some time left, so let's begin unfinished business number 1. This is the town manager, something to do with green power or something.
Sticking with the theme of tonight, this is about solar. In October, the council approved a contract with Green Power NC to install solar on the Public Works Administration building, Public Works Operations building. It is after my bedtime.
I know.
At the same time, we had proposals in to put solar on Public Safety Station 5. We've delayed that and delayed it, hoping to get a roof that we were comfortable putting solar on. We're not yet comfortable because of the ongoing work at that building. So what we'd like to do is use the funds that were appropriated by council to put the solar on Public Safety Station 5 and instead put it on Public Safety Station 4, which is on East William Street, and the Public Works Administration building. Total cost of the project is $59,540. Due now. The remainder of the $65,000 and change will be due at the end of that lease purchase term. So the money's appropriated, the money's available. It's just we need you to approve basically new contracts to allow these two projects in exchange for that one on Public Safety Station 5.
And the one was really more money than the two combined.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So there is ample money. We won't need any additional appropriation to do this. We just wanted to bring this back to you for your consideration.
And the slope and roof angle are appropriate and optimal.
Very
for-
nice.
Yes, sir.
Very
Okay.
nice.
Okay.
And they're both very visible from well-traveled public roads, so it's just a demonstration of environmental stewardship of the town. This council is asking developers to do it. We need to do the same thing.
Agreed.
All right.
I make a motion to approve.
Stay there, I have a question when we get there.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We can discuss the motion.
Okay, can I ask the town manager a
Sure.
question? What is our history, of using this system on our current, Public Works building?
So we currently have a system installed on the Public Works Operations building, and it's functioning very well.
We have 6 months of history. What's our history on that?
It's been installed for,
This January.
so not 6 months. I'd be happy, I could actually just go on my computer and show you the data daily. So we access that, we monitor it. It's performing as
With
promised by the vendor.
Parameters?
Yes,
And Green Power NC is responsible for it in case, through this lease period.
correct.
So if anything goes wrong, we just call them.
We're watching the warranty period. So if they drop a electron.
Just like we would with any contract.
Yeah. All right. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the motion? That is a motion to approve. All right, if there's no further discussion, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. All right, that passes unanimously. We now go to new business. Number 1, Toad Hollow Master Subdivision Plan on Kelly Road. Sarah Rayfield.
Good evening.
Hi.
The Toad Hollow subdivision before you meets all of the UDO requirements. They are saving the house formerly known as the Kronk property. That was the rezoning that was brought to you in the fall. Planning staff recommends approval. Planning board recommended approval at their meeting last night, and I will be happy to answer any questions. If you have anything, you should have all the information in your staff report.
All right, any questions for Sarah based on the staff report?
Is Toad Hollow, it's just the cul-de-sac, okay.
Correct.
Just the cul-de-sac.
That was what was approved in the rezoning.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
That
the one you
extension.
got larger lots on.
This is another one.
No. This is the one that had the larger lots. This was the extension of Toad Hollow Trail, which was the condition of the rezoning.
This is the tale of the toad.
Yes.
Tale of the Toad.
So what was brought as the rezoning is this is one portion of it. This is one subdivision of that rezoning.
Are we ready to make a motion, somebody?
Yes.
I don't want to make the next motion.
I'll make a motion.
Sorry.
All right, we have a motion to approve?
Yes.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right, discussion on the motion to approve? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no.
No, consistent with my previous vote.
Okay. New business number 1, this is a possible resolution for proposing the sale of one parcel, which sounds like we have a bid on?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, so you have before you, new business item number 2, at your last meeting, the council declared, the lot on, Culvert Street as surplus, which, allowed the town to accept a bid or an offer for purchase and then to start the upset bid process. I want to pass out, there was a slight change in the resolution. There was a little bit of conflicting language at the end of it. We wanted to make it very clear that any final offer would have to come back to the council for approval and just not be approved once the highest bid is received. So bids would need to come back to the council. We do have a bid now. So the resolution before you accepts that bid and begins the upset bid process. You still will have to, at the end of the upset bid process, once the final bid, the final highest bid is received, we will still have to come back to the council and ask you, do you wish to sell this piece of land for the amount of that bid? At any time during the process, during that process, you can say, we're done. We don't want to sell the land. Once the upset bid process runs its course, and we have the high bid, we'll put it on the agenda, we'll come back to you and say, do you want to sell the land?
Questions?
There was a comment made earlier about the lot size of this lot and being in conflict with the small town character district. Could you provide some clarity on that?
I could ask the planning director if she'd like to comment on that. Sorry, Diane. Yep.
There are provisions for lot sizes, it's a lot of record, in the non-conforming section.
I'm glad you know where it is in that binder.
You know, I've consistently, while she's looking it up, I'll filibuster. I've consistently told people, no one actually knows the whole UDO, you just know how to get to the answers.
Yeah.
And that's true. If Diane can't recite it, then nobody can. Not correctly, anyway.
Oh, she's got that.
That's true. That's true.
How about we update it too?
There you go.
While we're doing that, do we want to have a discussion of any kind, or?
If we could, since there are people who approached
Is there
us.
other discussion while she's looking?
Yeah.
What?
Go, you can.
So there were concerns raised publicly and then during the break with us related to issues of folks who are going to be most impacted, related to parking. Apparently, that was said on the record that there was a vehicle from a neighboring town who works for a city government that's parked illegally. So I don't know if you possibly that's the first time you're hearing that concern. So I guess that's something that we need to address.
Sure.
And then they mentioned concerns related to parking. I think those were the main concerns. Other things were that they just weren't aware that this was happening, and they didn't get to weigh in when we were making a decision. I wish I had all the information, and we could have made it better at the time, but,
So,
for everybody.
regarding, on-street parking, we'll look into that issue. I'll ask our police department to do that. We will fairly and equitably enforce our parking regulations. There are times when, even though the letter of the law says you can't do thus and so, sometimes we don't enforce to the letter, like when a speed limit is posted at 25, we're not writing a ticket at 26 miles an hour. There is officer discretion, and they balance the public safety need. If someone is obstructing a roadway, it doesn't matter if it's a government vehicle or a personal vehicle, they're going to be reminded that it's not okay under North Carolina law to block a roadway. So we will look into that specific situation that was mentioned here today, and then any others. But like any other lot in town, or even in my neighborhood, there's doesn't seem to be adequate off-street parking in some places, and there's cars that are parked in the roadway. But we'll monitor that in just as we would in any other neighborhood.
Well, the addition of one more house may or may not exacerbate that.
Well, there's several hurdles to cross before any house gets potentially put on this lot. A lot of hurdles. The ownership of the property doesn't. Well, first of all, as long as Diane's still looking. Okay. Well, let's refer back to you then, and we'll.
So it's section 10.4, non-conforming lots of record, where a lot of or a parcel of land has an area or frontage which does not conform to the standards of this ordinance, but it was a lot of record on the effective date of this ordinance, August 1st, 2000, such lot or parcel of land may be developed for a single-family home, provided it complies with the regulations in existence at the time of its approval and the terms and conditions of its approval. And then subsection 10.4.1, setback reductions, where a single-family lot has an area, depth, or width which does not conform to the requirements of the district in which it is located, the side yard setbacks may be reduced to not less than 5 feet. The rear setback may be reduced to not less than 10 feet. And until we see a plan for the house on the lot, I would not be able to answer how it could or could not fit based on these.
I think anybody that bids on this should probably make sure that they conform to what Diane just read.
And the small town character area overlay district application is an administrative approval, and there's no cost, so whoever would like to do this should come and get that before they do anything else.
So the short answer, it is a lot of record.
It is.
Based on all the documentation that we have available to us, yes, it's a lot of record.
Okay. Thank you, Dave.
Well, one thing, I've made the motion before to take a look at this, and it's to take a look at, because I hesitate a bit. I went out there and I took a look at the lot, and I think it was suggested possibly look at it as a community garden. I don't know whether that's applicable or not. I know there's apple trees on that lot and stuff, so there's that sort of thing. I guess maybe I'd be interested in asking town staff to look at that aspect also while we're going through this process to see if there is a possibility of a community garden, and I think